Hey, what's up, guys? John here. Mayor Adams of New York City is now paying every single migrant that enters the city $10,000 and putting it on a debit card for them to be able to buy food, clothes, whatever they'd like. Really, there's no limit to how the money can be spent.
New York City, 70,000 migrants have flooded in over the past year, straining local resources.
Eric Adams' proposal is to give families prepaid credit cards that they can use to buy food or supplies.
If this is successful, we're going to expand it even more.
But when you start to look at this really closely, what you're going to start to see here is this goes a hell of a lot deeper than just New York City. This is actually coming on a national level, and it's not going to be just migrants. This is going to be, U.S. citizens as well. We're going to see this really explode in 2024 and 2025. I mean, look at this, for example. One source, this debit card program, if you read the actual contract, has the potential to become an open-ended, multi-billion-dollar Bermuda Triangle of disappearing, untraceable cash used for any purpose. It will give migrants $10,000 each in taxpayer money with no ID check, no restrictions, and no fraud control. Then, New York Post saying the same exact thing. Debit card program, if you read the actual contract's potential to become an open-ended, multi-billion-dollar Bermuda Triangle of disappearing, untraceable cash. It will give migrants $10,000 each in taxpayer money with no ID check, no restrictions, no fraud control. Then, you start to look at this, this plan with universal basic income, this 4-day work week, and all these new tax changes, these new tax laws that are going to be coming. Because how is all of this going to get funded? How are universal basic income programs and the money for migrants, how is all this going to get funded? Through tax dollars. How are they going to be able to fund it if people are working 20% less, right? If they're going from working 5 days a week to 4 days a week.
American workers of all ages overwhelmingly say they'd like to shift to a 4-day work week, with large portions willing to change jobs or even industries to get the perk.
The world's biggest trial of a 4-day working week has ended in success, with the performance of companies largely unharmed and workers feeling healthier and happier.
How do they do it? Right, so I'm going to break this down for you. I'm going to show you exactly what the future of America is going to look like and what you can do to position yourself and prepare for it. It's going to be the greatest transfer of assets that we've ever seen before. Over the next couple of years, it's really going to change America. Please hit the like button, YouTube, share the content, educate more people about what's happening in this country. It's a shame. America is a very, in my opinion, the best country that's ever been, right? It's the greatest place. And it's going through a really big change. Unfortunately, we've seen this, the rise and fall of other countries. Same thing, it looks like, is being, it's unfolding here in America. If you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself for this massive wealth transfer, because at the end of the day, there's always winners and losers. The losers are going to be, the middle class, unfortunately, with this whole entire situation. And the winners are going to be those that can rise up from this and really start to, put themselves in a really good spot. The last thing you want to do is live exclusively on taxable income, on earned income. You want to have investments. You want to put yourself in a position to have write-offs. You can pivot and move. You can go out there and start acquiring assets, because at the end of the day, the more money you have, the more options you have, and options now is wealth. So I'm going to break it down for you. If you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself for funding, if you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any issue at all on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video. Schedule that free strategy session for tomorrow, for Wednesday, to position yourself for this massive opportunity. So look at this. This is the resources. Government gives $10K each of taxpayer money, does not require ID check, no restrictions, no fraud control. Then you look at this. The words that they use are extremely important, especially the buzzwords, inequality, inequity, all these words. Then you have this, Chicago's migrant crisis divides community over equity, right? Equity. They say that the number one problem here in America is the, problem with inequity and, inequality and the haves and the have-nots, right? Even though nowadays it's only, the have yachts and then the have-nots, which is, like the 99%. What they say is how to combat inequity. I put it right here, inequity. They say governments can reduce inequality through tax relief and income support or transfers, government programs like welfare, free healthcare, food stamps, among other things. It sounds very familiar to what is happening right now in New York City, right? It sounds very familiar. It takes money to make money. As the old saying goes, and apparently it also takes money, as much as $53 million, to give money away. Earlier this month, the Post broke the story that Mayor Adams is giving out paid cash cards to migrants. Unusually, for the mayor, he didn't publicize this story himself and the administration for nearly a month and has failed to correct several popular misconceptions about it. One misconception is that the program allowed the city to give out just $50 million to migrants. No wonder that, like, and it's because it's open-ended. It's not going to end, right? The old saying is, there's nothing permanent like a temporary government program, right? And so when you look at this, then you start to see, okay, well, let's look at the trends. What's actually happened the last 3.5 years? In 2021, there was 11 cities that were doing UBI. In 2022, it turned to 82 cities across 29 states. Now there's hundreds in 2023. And what I think is 2024 is going to be the federal. 2024, 2025, in that range, we're going to start seeing federal pushes for universal basic income as inflation gets worse and consumers start to demand federal assistance. That's what's happening. Stimulus packages in 2020, that was, what I think is more of a warm-up. They thought it was just going to be one package, and it turned to 2 to 3, and it continued to kind of, establish that relationship of dependence. That's going to only amplify over the next couple of years. Now, when you see this is just the last week, by the way. So if you look at just recent, and then you go to tools last week, you see 5 pages of universal basic income, of conversations about universal basic income about this, right? 4 pages with a blank page for 5, right? So all this conversation, universal basic income has been tried over and over again. It works every time. This is where we're headed. We are headed here. But then I ask myself, how's universal basic income funded? Because some people might say, hey, this is a great thing. This is an amazing thing. We need help. Inflation's out of control. I need money. Well, most UBI plans will be funded by taxpayer revenue that would either supplement or replace their existing welfare programs. So tax revenues. Well, when the largest corporations pay no tax, right, and they have a lot of their operations offshore, and most of the tax revenue is funded, most of the tax revenue that is collected is not coming from large corporations, it's coming from the middle class, how is that going to work in a 4-day work week environment? Because presently, if you look at this, also came out, February 2nd, right, just a couple weeks ago, you have all these different countries doing it. So Belgium introduced a 4-day work week. Then you have Germany, right? Pilots for a shorter 4-day work week. Portugal doing the same thing. UK trial already hailed as extremely successful in the UK. Scotland and Wales joining growing global movement with pilots. Spain starts the trial for a 4-day work week. Iceland, all these locations, Sweden, mixed reactions to a 4-day work week. Finland has not introduced a 4-day work week despite widespread claims, right? This is what Japan's big corp ventured into a 4-day work week. This is what's going to be happening. It's not going to just be like America. This is going to be coming on a worldwide stage, this 4-day work week. But I think America, if you look at the last couple of years, America with office vacancy rates comparing us to other countries, we have more people working from home than any other country. Right? It's more extreme here in America than in a lot of other locations. But they're all, many of these other countries, these developed nations, are also moving into the 4-day work week. And so workers overwhelmingly want a 4-day work week on one condition. Now ask this one question. How can Americans afford a 4-day work week when even if they work 7 days, they're still barely keeping the lights on, right? How do they have the option, the flexibility to be able to go from 5 days to 4 days, right? They're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to. What would happen is they would have to start defaulting on other debt obligations. Maybe it'd be student loans, auto loans, credit card bills. If a 4-day work week started happening, we would start to see a lot of bank stress. We would start to see a lot of credit card companies, a lot of companies going under. We would see a lot of loans just going unfulfilled. I personally believe this 4-day work week is a conversation to be had so that the universal basic income and all of these subsidies can continue to kind of get rolled forward. But then we look at this. This is also, look at the URL, it's important, finance.senate.gov. There's a $4.7 trillion tax hike. So when you see Main Street job creators hit with $1.8 trillion in new taxes, expands a small business surtax to hit owner-operated small businesses with $650 billion tax hike, an additional $235 billion in taxes for non-corporate businesses through an increase in the top individual tax rate. Nearly 1 million small businesses organized as C corporations will face a tax rate that is 33% higher. When combined with surtax, the president's budget calls for hiking the individual federal income tax rate up to its highest level since 1986, nearly 45%. In addition to raising taxes, the proposal also lowers tax brackets by hundreds of thousands of dollars, thereby pushing tax increases downward on even more hardworking Americans. Biden's $77 billion tax on death tax increases will force family farms, ranches, and other generational businesses to sell off assets to pay enormous tax bills in Washington. So you start to see this is happening And it just continues onward. A business tax regime that gives China the upper hand. A supersized IRS to help combat, right? A continued war on American energy, right? So you start to see all of these. This is on a government website. Like this is on finance.senate.gov. And so you just start connecting the dots here. What do I think is going to happen? I believe we're going to see taxes go up. I think inflation is going to get worse. I think interest rates are going to continue to be higher for longer. And I think that we're going to see a situation in this country where many people right now that are barely making it are going to have a harder time in the coming year, 2 years, as we start to move into this place. Because without doubt, we are moving into a universal basic income. Like, it's just a matter of when. Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg, everybody's been talking about this for years and years and years. When you start to see all these different programs coming from migrants, just realize this is going to be coming for 330 million Americans. So my advice is a good accountant and a good attorney will be worth their weight in gold. Make sure that you have everything kind of buttoned up there. You don't want to live exclusively on earned income. You want to have, ideally assets in which you can depreciate. You can find ways in which you can legally offset taxes. And you want to be able to, have a situation where potentially even a second passport, having options to pivot and move, because no one's going to know what the future is going to look like here in America. I love America. I want to be very, very clear about that. I love America. But the future of America is, it's a coin toss at this point. And I think a lot of really smart people are, they're hedging their bets. And that's what I think we're going to start to see here as things get a little bit more radical in this country. I also believe we're going to start to see more and more companies start to offshore talent, really start to hire more and more talent offshore. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more companies invest heavily into AI and tech and robotics because they can depreciate those investments against their taxable income. So we're going to see a lot of changes happening. And inside of massive periods of change comes massive opportunity. So if you are thinking about, investing, make sure that you have an investment plan that's going to, benefit you when it comes time for taxes. And make sure you have a situation in which you're forward thinking, you're reverse engineering future problems. Because if you look at them, it looks very, very clear. But unfortunately, 99% of people, they have no idea what's coming. What do you think about this entire situation? Drop below. Let's have a conversation about this. If you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself for this massive wealth transfer, if you are looking for funding for a business, for real estate, for a car, a work truck, we'd love to help you. Love to give you a free strategy session in my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any issue at all in your credit report, we'd love to give you a free strategy session. And I share this information to help people see problems ahead of everybody else too. And I don't mean to, concern anyone about the future or anything like that. But at the end of the day, facts are facts. Emotion, changes by the day. But, this is what we're actually living in, and this is what I believe is very, very important. Catch you in the next video.